Hi and welcome. June 2020 sees a new and improved version of Photoshop hit our computers, and very exciting it is. It has many enhancements and new features. Here are my top 5 new features or enhancements. Let the journey begin. Okay, the first new feature that we're going to talk about is that you can now move the film strip. It used to be up at this left hand side. Here I've got it set at the bottom, but you can change that. And if we just right click in the film strip, and we've got a new addition called film strip orientation, and we can make it either vertical, which is old school. I prefer it at the bottom now. And if we right click again, we can choose horizontal. You are going to love this one. Adobe are really pushing the boundaries with their Sensei technology. It really is getting smarter and has now been improved specifically for portrait images. Select Subject now finds the face in your image and is optimised to create a more refined selection of the hair with much better fine detail and edge quality. Now there's nothing extra to do, just open a portrait image like this one in Photoshop, and we'll go up and we'll choose Select and Subject, and it will go off and do its stuff. Now we need to click on a mask to be able to see the selection, so there we go. So here you see we've now got the new selection, and I've called that new, and it's masked out, and I think that looks pretty good. This top one I've called old, and this is the one that I did in the previous version of Photoshop. So same select subject, but look at the difference. I'll turn that on and off a couple of times. You can see a much improved selection of that hair. I think you'll agree, a real significant improvement. And if that wasn't enough, to make things a little bit swifter for you, if you go to the Properties panel under Quick Actions, there's now a one-click button called Remove Background. How cool is that? The next new item is something we've been waiting for a long time. The ability to rotate patterns. Okay, and we'll find this in the Adjustment Layers panel. So I'll go down and I'll click on the Adjustment Layer and we'll click on Pattern. And now I can choose a pattern. Let's say, we'll go for, say, trees. And now I can actually rotate them patterns by just rotating this angle slider here. Is that not great? I love that. Okay, it's also available as an effect. So if I go down to the FX panel and I can click on Pattern Overlay, then in here I've got this same angle slider, so I can actually move these patterns round inside the text in this case. Yep, I like that one. Okay, the next new really exciting feature is the ISO adaptive presets. Now it would be nice to do noise reduction on import. Now the problem always has been that one value of noise reduction doesn't suit all images. In June 2020 version of Photoshop, you can create a custom preset that adapts to different ISO values. You can then set this preset as the default setting in Camera Raw. You can specify different settings for different ISO values in your preset. If an image has a different ISO value than the one you've specified in your preset, then the appropriate value for the setting is calculated based on the values defined by you in your preset. For example, if you create a following preset, let's say at ISO 400, what you consider correct is that you don't need any luminance noise reduction, so you could set that to 0. If you've got an image coming in at 1600 ISO, then you may think, well, I'll have a luminance noise reduction of, say, 10. The next time you import an image with an ISO 800, the luminous noise reduction will be calculated and set to 5. So Photoshop's doing all the calculation and all the work for you. Okay, so how does it work? Well, the first thing we need is 2 images. One with a low ISO and one with a high ISO. So here in Bridge I've got 2 such images, and I've got one with an ISO of 200 and I've got one with an ISO of 2000, and I'm going to use them as my starting points. So I'm going to need to open them up in Adobe Camera Raw. So I'm going to right click and open in Camera Raw. And there they are. And what I now need to do is to look at what kind of noise reduction I would like for each of these images. So this first one here is an ISO of 200. So what I'm going to do is go to my detail panel, and in the noise reduction I'm going to say, well, no, I don't really need any in that. With an ISO of 400 the images are pretty clean, so I'm going to leave that at 0. I'm then going to click on this one, which has a ISO of 2000, and I'm going to put a noise reduction in. Let's have a look. It was up at 70. Let's have a look. What do I need in it? Yeah, I'll probably put something like 50 in there because it's quite a noisy image. And then I'm ready to go. And now I'm going to create a new preset. So I'm going to go to my presets panel, and I'm going to click create new preset. I'm going to give it a title. I'll call it ISO Adaptive, and I'll give it a name saying 400 to 2000, so it gives me an idea of which one it is. I'm not going to use user presets. I'll create myself a new group to put all my adaptive presets in, and I'll just call this Adaptive Presets, and I'll click OK. And now if you've done this correctly, which I haven't, this will be active. So I'm going to have to cancel out of that and click on both. So both of them must be highlighted for this to work. And so now I'm going to go back up to my presets, create a new one. I'm going to call this Adaptive Preset 400 to 2000. I'm going to make myself a new group called Adaptive Presets. And then down at the bottom you'll see this is now live because both of those are now highlighted. I'm going to check everything that's in there, that's fine. And then I'm going to click OK. And that's it done. I've now got an adaptive presets folder, and in there I've got my adaptive preset 400 to 2000. Okay, next step is to install that preset as the Camera Raw default preset for your camera. So I'm going to go down to the bottom of the tools panel. We've got these little more image settings here, these little 3 dots. I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to go down to set raw defaults. And in that now I've got my raw defaults settings. So in master, what I'm going to do is navigate to my adaptive presets folder and my adaptives presets. I need to override the master settings because I want this to be for a specific camera, which is my camera. It'll then pick up whatever your camera is. Well, mine's an Olympus EM1X. I need again to select, if it's not already selected, the preset that I want, my adaptive preset. And then I want to create default. And that will now show my camera and the preset, the default preset. And now at any time that I start importing, Camera Raw will check, and if it's been imported and it's coming from my Olympus camera, then it will apply this preset to it. And so if I've got a low ISO on any image or a high ISO, it will set them accordingly. Okay, let's click OK, and we're done. And of course, if you've got multiple cameras, you just make multiple presets, one for each of your cameras. Right, now I think I've saved the best new feature till last. Now there's been a major overhaul of the Camera Raw interface. Let's see it now. this is the image I'm wanting to work with, so I'm going to go to Filter and Camera Raw Filter. And here you can see the completely redesigned package. Now I think this looks really good. Now to save any distractions, let's go full screen by clicking this toggle full screen mode up here. There we go. Now a lot of what's happened here is cosmetic. The old interface has been around for many years and I think it was due a freshen up. So the panels now, rather than appear on the top, now appear vertically. And you'll notice how much it is like its stablemate Lightroom. The toolbar has now changed position from the top to the side, and some of the tools have been integrated into the panels. For example, the transform tools that used to be on the top have now got their own panel called geometry. And we'll look at that in a minute. Now you can click the little triangles here to open up a panel and make an adjustment. So we'll just make, let's say, darken this down a bit, and then we'll close the panel. And now you can see this visibility eye is still visible. It's still there. It's light. And this is telling me that in that panel there is an adjustment. And if I want to look at the before and after, I just click and hold down on the eye and I've got a before and an after, and a before and an after. Now a new feature that I do like is if I hold the Alt key down, and we get everything changed to a reset. So I can reset the basic, I can reset any or all of the panels so long as I've got the Alt key held down. Now another change is that we don't have a HSL panel. It's now been changed to the colour mixer panel. And in here we have a couple of options. We've got the HSL, so if this is the way you prefer working, you still can. We've got the hue, the saturation and the luminance. We've got an addition here of the all panel, and if I click on that, it shows all the panels in one go. I don't particularly find that useful, so we can go back to the hue, the saturation and the luminance. And we've still got the target adjustment tool, so if I click on that and go into the image, I can darken it and lighten it or change the saturation. I can change the hue. If I go into the hue, I can make it different colours, all this cool stuff, and so that's really cool. Now there's an addition to this now, which again is coming back to Lightroom again, is we've got the colour option, and to be honest this is probably what I prefer. So here we've got discrete colour ranges. So here we've got the reds, the oranges, so if I click in the reds I can change the red hues. Now there isn't many. Oh, there we go. Yeah, we could change that, and we can change the saturation, and we can change the luminance of that specific range of colours. And to be honest, I think I'm going to like this as a better way of working as a workflow. So this is probably how my panels will be set up. Now the split toning panel remains the same, allows us to put different shades into the highlights and the shadows. And we've got a new optics panel. And this is really the bones of the old lens corrections panel. So here you can change you can make the oh, well, I don't think she'd like that. Here we can change the distortion, and we can correct for any vignettes that might happen around the outside. And then we've got defringe, which is for getting rid of those purple and green fringes that can appear on high contrast edges in your image. Then we've got, like we said earlier, the new geometry panel, which again has got the upright features now from Lightroom, and we can do things manually if we need to do manual transforms. We can change the vertical aspect or the horizontal, and rotate things if we want. And then we've got the effects panel, which now it's got the grain and the vignetting, or the post-crop vignettes as it used to be. And then the calibration panel, which contains the process version and then your calibration sliders. Now the tools appear down here, down the right hand side. And there's been an additional tool that's been added to the adjustment brush and the graduated filter and the radial filter. Let's have a look at the adjustment brush just for demonstration purposes. And this is the one, it's the hue slider. So when I come into here, I can make some changes. So I can change the exposure and the highlights and the shadows. And then when I paint an area, it'll actually paint it with that adjustment. And if I want to see where I've been painting, I can just click the mask. So that's where I've just been painting. So that's my localized adjustment. And now, instead of just having the saturation, I've actually got a hue slider. So I can click and drag this. Oops, I'm in the fine adjustment. I can click and drag this and I can change the hue of the adjustment area that I've just painted. Now the fine adjustment is just a much slower process. You drag it and it takes you really slow, so you can actually pinpoint a really specific hue that you might want for something. I prefer just to leave that off and then I can quickly go through the hues. And I think that's about it for the new and improved Camera Raw. Well, and that's it. My top 5 new features in the June 2020 edition of Photoshop CC. I do hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you in the very next video. Bye for now.